Story continued from Thaddeus and Tarquinus playlist. Realisations. He left a scar, most likely on purpose. But is that me being bitter, even a tad? Or do I simply give too much stock to the healing prowess of my tutor, my teacher? I stand before my mirror, stretching, checking myself from top of head to tips of toes. And there it is. The large, vivid crimson scar that does not fade. Well, perhaps that is a bit precipitous. It has not faded in the time I've been asleep. But then, having an ancient weapon of war burn straight through your chest, shattering all of my ribs on one side, deflating and crisping a lung? I suppose I should just be grateful I am alive. And of course, I am. Deeply thankful to not only the Elder Farseer, my present teacher in the arts, for having the faith in me to resist ending my life. Thankful that I was given a strange and potent gift by a Juquero that saved my life when all seemed lost. Thankful to my God, the Emperor of mankind, for giving me my staff, guiding me to where I needed to be. Thankful to my friends who came out to find me, possibly at great cost to themselves. Josephus, the newcomer, the arbiter, who I would never dream of being able to choose between the wisdom of a Xenos and the letter of the law. Louis, the Juquero, who must have had such issues, been so torn about choosing between his best friend, Thaddeus, and myself. And of course, beautiful Ursula. She risked all on a gambit that could have stolen her life, or, far the worse, her sanity or her very soul. I never had any doubt that Ilhavnarian, the solitaire, would do everything in his power to come to my side, especially as the cause was rooted in the word of a fellow Eldar, Tan Irinade, the Heart of Fire, the very Farseer who's presently tutoring me in everything involving the warp, the Sea of Souls, its use, its potentials, and, of course, its many dangers. Yet even he must have found it hard to go against the will and word of my senior, his true ally, the Thaddeus. When I returned, the two of them, the Eldar, could smell the corruption on my very soul. But it was not from me bending the knee to the Dark Ones. It was merely the proximity had been to such overwhelming evil. The very dark gods themselves. Well, 3 of them. I shudder even now when I think back on that encounter. Why did they not destroy me? I was there, right in front of them. I resisted them. Why did they not strike? They spoke of tomorrows, of their patience, of their knowledge that I would give them my staff, that I would one day bow before one or all of them. But is this true? Somehow, in the bottom of my soul, I cannot shift the feeling that he was with me, that he, my God, somehow held me in check. A foolish, childish belief, perhaps. Nonetheless, I hold it. I cannot see why the Dark Ones would permit me to leave otherwise. For everything I have been told, everything I have witnessed, via my own eyes, and through the dance of an elder with a broken soul, I simply cannot fathom why else they would permit me to leave. They said it was so I could pass on a message to their prodigal son, because I would eventually turn to one of them, that it was inevitable. But there is so much to take in, so much to consider. I must discuss this with a heart of fire. There is power in names, truth in identities. Why? Why would they give me a weakness to this, their chosen envoy? Why would they show me his Achilles' heel if it were not somehow a trap to use it? As I ruminate, I spot it in my reflection. I push the back of my hair into view, and it is now white. There is always a mark from an encounter with true evil, they say. Although I may see lustrous hair in the front, they have marked me out to anyone else who views me. For my hair in the back is laced with lines of white. Not grey. That could be altered, hidden, tinted, dyed. This, my new hair, is as white as the snows of my home world's winter, the crisp blanket that covered the peaks of her mountains. I shrug. What other choice do I have? Since I have embarked on this path, I have lost an eye, half of my face crumpled under the backhand slap of a traitor marine. I've had one of my arms enhanced, repaired, so that it not only functions due to the same root cause, but gives me an edge in combat now. I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Well, being more honest, charging the wrong adversary out of rage and revenge. I will never forget what they did to the twins, Falcus and Ferin. Never. Again, I am lucky to be alive. I trail a finger down the thin line of my neck, where a slanishy blade was placed by the same noise marine. That standoff. Barbon, Thaddeus and Ursula all working to free me. I have a scar on my upper arm, where Devrin gave me a shoeing with astonishing gusto that day. Later, I found out that he had lost a heck of a lot to his fellow Catachans in a game of dice. It was not only his duty to give me a beating, as prescribed by my mentor, the Thaddeus. On that day, like so many others, it was also a real pleasure for him. Simpler times. But I still stand. And now, I am a fully fledged Inquisitor. I am the chosen successor of the Thaddeus. It is not just a name. It is a title. One of the most secret sects within the Ordo Malleus of the Inquisition. He is of the traditions. He is the wisdom. The Thaddeus. And he is presently far from me, out there in the dark beyond the Emperor's Astronomicon, his Imperium, and, some say, outside of the Emperor's protection. We were split up after my apparent death at the hands of a terror of ancient days, and Ingir, according to the Eldar tongue, a Catan or star god with the lexicon of Imperial Gothic. And somewhere it is still out there, doing Emperor only knows what. We hunt an immortal, another thing from ancient days, but only ancient by human understanding and measurement. a being called Midrot. This one is only circa 40,000 years old. Only. And it is said that he was an enemy of the Emperor himself. Faced him in those days before humanity could even take to the skies, when sword and armor ruled the battlefield. So, this'll be easy then. May you live in interesting times, is a curse they say. Well, if these aren't the most interesting times a man of my age has ever witnessed, then I do not know, could not even dream, what would trump this lot. I am either the most cursed man in the galaxy, or the most blessed to live to see such events, to take part in a true battle between good and evil. My master, the Thaddeus, has taught me all he knows about our Lord, our benefactor, the Emperor of mankind. I know him to be a man, but that was then, and this is now. He is so much more than that. I do not believe he is infallible. I hunt one of his mistakes, is what some might say. A foe who not only evaded his end on the battlefield, but managed to creep away into the darkness of the void. A mistake most profound, it seems. I do not think or believe he cannot make mistakes. Yet, he is my true beacon and example. For this man sacrificed himself, everything he was, everything he could ever have been. His life is never-ending battle while he sits on the golden throne, watching over his people for all eternity, protecting us, guiding us, yet never able to walk amongst us. He gave his life, gives his future, so we may live, so that we may have some shred of a chance of survival against a universe that wants us defeated, enslaved, and destroyed. And compared to this eternal sacrifice, my own wounds and travails are nothing. And so, I too shall endure. I too shall strive. I too shall look evil dead in the eye and spit in it. For the Emperor, for humanity, for my master Thaddeus, for Ursula, for her. She who came for me when no other could, her calling being the one that brought me out of the clutches of evil and back to my body, back to my life, back to the light. But it is now time to bring everything I have learnt, everything I am, everything I do, to the table. I dress formally. I don my best and only uniform of high estate. I cover myself with the trappings of my office. I dress to impress, even taking temperance at my side, its handle a thing of beauty, its sheath a thing of power, as much as the blade itself. I have my rings from Louis, one that can stop time, the other that can burn near anything. And last, possibly most close to my heart if I am honest, the bolt pistol bequeathed to me by an emperor's champion. A gift from Barbon. The ginger Gyrinx opens its deep blue eyes and stretches, then gracefully steps off my bed and stands by the door. It knows we go out for a wee walk. It has become my shadow in the last days, even more so than before. Little Robute seems to be growing, for he is not so little anymore. Even in the last few days since my return, it has matured a fraction. Odd in the extreme. But this is no normal feline. It is as alien as its usual owners, the Elder. A gift from the Farseer, one to make up for my slow monkey mind, he said. And he is right, of course. When the Gyrinx is present, or even on the same ship, I can feel my mind racing like quicksilver. I am more precise, more centered. Nothing is beyond my wit to grasp. A potent gift indeed, if an annoying one at times. But why? Why do I put on all this finery for a meeting of friends and allies? I am not playing dress-up to coddle a bruised ego. I am about to stamp my authority and take back control. The Jacero may have alerted the others. The Eldar and Josephus came to my side. But this is not their shindig. Theirs is not the authority, direction, nor cause. As a chosen successor of the Thaddeus, even as a lower-ranked member of the traditions and the Ordo, that duty is mine. With Rebute at my heels, I stride the decks of the Huntsman of the Soul, and all who witness me, the menials, the crewmen, they all bow their heads as I pass. Good. At least I look the part. I reach my destination, and the doors open. They are all prepared, sat around the conference table. The Farseer, the Solitaire, the Judge, the Captain, First Officer, Navigator, and Ursula, looking radiant as always. I sit and ask for their update. And as time progresses, I slowly begin to wince harder and harder as their story unfolds. The cat's nonchalance, the realization and subsequent chat with Barbon, the decision to take matters into their own hands, the trapping of the Catachans, the bloodless battle. By the end of it, I cannot help myself. I have downed a stiff drink and are sitting with my elbows on the table, eyes closed, forefingers pinched over the arch of my nose. Alas, it seems I have taken on more from my mentor than I previously thought possible, and I wish to use the T word he so often uses on me. You know, when I have blundered so hard, there is simply no other word to convey consternation while maintaining an avuncular air. But I cannot. Not to these people who gambled so much for me on the slimmest of chances. I sigh deeply, and scanning each face, looking into their eyes, I stop on Louis and Heart of Fire. Can I just ask one teeny tiny question? They both look sidelong at each other, and then nod slowly. Now, considering the nature of the Astartes, and Barbon in particular, as a Black Templar, can I ask why you did not ask Josephus and or Ursula to discuss your suspicions? The Eldar's brows furrow in thought, as his eyes widen. The Jacaro's face pauses, drops. Then he sits back in his chair in the midst of a raucous laugh that fills the room. He is now slapping the table with his hands, as tears of mirth roll down his face. The Farseer's lips and eyes thin, as he glares at the orange-furred Jacaro. The Solitaire steeples his fingers in front of his face by the shuddering of his shoulders. He is holding back a laugh. A single snorted snigger comes from Ursula, and the stern countenance of Josephus breaks as he looks blatantly up at the ceiling. The Captain, Exo, and Navigator look at the table, or their fingernails. I sigh deeply again, and just wave my hand in front of me, in a clear statement of, let's move on. Spilt Amasek, second thoughts. Let's just all agree that the end result was a success. Teething troubles with interracial interactions. And I have them. Now when they look at me, they pause to see if I will speak, not hover to interrupt or chide. balls back on the table. Beyond all hope with such company, I am Big Dog. Now we decide what we do from here. Tan-Irinade retorts. We need to rejoin Thaddeus. We should go to the last known spot and try to trace them. We scry for them. Between our combined skills and your and Ursula's connections, it should be possible, if not easy. Louis wipes the last tears of his mirth away and nods in agreement with the Farseer. My eyebrows meet and forehead creases. You don't seem convinced. Why? Says Tan-Irinade. I retort slowly. This may seem daft, but I have a nagging feeling that we were meant to be broken up. That perhaps our paths are different for a reason. The Farseer snaps back. Our paths are divergent due to the avarice of the Naugrim, the Squats, and the negligence of a Monkey tech priest. Perhaps. Those are the events, but are they the root cause? I have my reasons. I believe we are not alone out here. We never were. He gave me my staff. And all look confused at that last statement. Time to draw them back in. I state resolutely, we are here for a reason. Others may not share your sentiments, counters the solitaire, but with no venom or resistance, a simple statement of fact. I retort, in any case, we need to bring something with us. After what you've just told me, they might just blow us out of the void on first sight. Not with you, returned Tarquinus, counters the Farseer blithely. Ursula interjects. Without us, Thaddeus has no witch sight. He has no psychers to protect him. Now it was the turn for Tan-Irinade to snort, but deeply derisively. I respond before the Farseer can do so. Your heart is correct, Ursula. Your head is not. He is the Thaddeus, and he has Barbon, Devrin, and the other teams. Vermilior alone, the Farseer cuts across me, could be a stooge, but he is never vulnerable. He is the Thaddeus. Josephus finally chips in. Assuming you are somehow led by the Emperor's will, where do we go? What do we do? I'm not entirely sure. I think we need to do some fact-finding of our own, at the very least, while heading in their direction. The Farseer calmly but coolly intones, You are beyond the Emperor's light, Inquisitor. What makes you think he presides out here? Faith. He slips and responds as he would have done in our private sessions. Are you sure it's not just fear of a scolding? I've been called a tit before. I'll be called it again. It's deeper than that, Tan-Irinade. My use of his name draws him back. He flicks an eye to the others and almost imperceptibly nods to me. An apology. The captain finally takes a part in the deliberations. Inquisitor, we do not know where we are, where they are, where the enemy is. I nod and state. And that is what we should find out. Ursula chimes in. We could get lost out here. Never see them again. I turn to her. I do not believe that. I cannot. I do not. I lean forward and look each in the eye and bring them in close. They also lean forward, invited into our secret circle. Let us make a deal, the lot of us, right here, right now. We search. We hunt for information that he will require. But each time we gather to discuss our results and subsequent aims, we vote. When a vote comes in to return, we scry for Thaddeus with every logical and mystic muscle we possess. Do I have a deal? And all nod in genuine agreement. I then give all of them my most wolfish grin and state, let's go explore. I sit next to my first friend. The rain is relentlessly drumming on his armour. His blood leaks out of gashes to run amidst the rivulets, creating rivers all over his body, taking his life's fluids into the ground of Coravor. This should not happen. His Astartes biology should have closed all wounds long ago, in seconds. Something is deeply amiss. He has not said a word, but he grips my hand. It is weak, but the pressure is there. He is in terrible pain, breathing so shallowly I cannot even hear it coming out of his helmet. I have no choice. I snap back the latches on his helm, as I did all those years ago, and I slowly remove it. He is white as a sheet, hair matted to his brow, sweating profusely. His eyes open, but water trickles down into them. He blinks it back and looks at me. A wan smile lights his lips. He tries to speak, but nothing comes out. He mouths the words, "My brothers." No words, Barbon. "Save your strength," says I. His wounds are closing, but not fast enough. This is not right, any of it. Again, I have no choice. I bark over the vox to Devlin. "Get down here now! Bring every med pack you have!" I've not had to do this for over a century, but needs must when the dark gods drive. I look back towards the encampment to see how fast Devlin is moving, and I see it. Vermilia's understudy, Castero. I had forgotten him. He stands not 10 feet from me, frozen to the spot. His eyes are wide as saucers. He is not looking at me. He is transfixed on Barbon. The kin, Halfdan, walks between us, looking down in concern on my knight, and when I can see Castero again, he is back in control, wandering over with that stupid, stroppy scowl on his face, but in character. Emperor's balls. I cannot act against him. Not here, not yet, not now. Halfdan has directed his warriors to collect the injured amongst his own, start to move them back to their brick-like ships. I try to keep Castero in my field of vision, while ostensibly watching for Devlin and the lads to arrive. But in the corner of my eye, I see something else. Another, hunched over a man in power armor. It is Vermilia. Castero now gawps and slowly trudges to her side. The belting he took from the enemy has him semi-limping. Vermilia has the marine's head in her lap. She removes his helm also, smooths his hair. Bent over so no one can see her expression, not all of the liquid that drops from her face is rain. The armor is black. It is Tarek. A giant walks towards them all, shakily but on his feet. The Primaris, Barobiel. His armor is rent in many places, but he can move. He will heal. As Castro reaches Vermilia, he sits behind, hugging her. She does not fight him off. But as Barobiel nears, he staggers. Then realization hits him, and he falls forward onto his knees and screams his anger into the skies. Barbon opens his eyes again and looks to me. I nod. "Old friend," I whisper, "Tarek's duty has come to an end." Barbon closes his eyes. His grip tightens. He will blame himself for this. "Do not mourn, my friend." He knew the odds. He gave so others could live. He chose his ending with honor. He is with the Emperor now. Devlin arrives, skidding in the mud to land next to us. He, Halfdan, and Bartholomew now help me to take off Barbon's chestplate. They hold him as I ply my trade. I perform an emergency operation. I administer enough stims and potions to fell a squiggoth, pulling out shards of swords, stitching wherever the blood still oozes, trying to find out why the blood still flows. I bandage as best I can. And at the end of it all, Barbon's breathing returns to something approximating normal. He is Astartes, and he is the strongest man I have ever met, and not just of the body. Praise be to the Emperor. He will live. An utter disaster. All in the name of a Xenos race we barely know, for a cause not of his own. Damn my eyes. Why did we not just leave? All of the high-blown diplomatic dung I spouted earlier now seems cold comfort in the face of the price we have paid. Not just us, but the kin also. This was a massacre. Again, it's all on me. It has been a few hours since the meeting. I have finally done what I wanted from the first second back on the ship. I have unburdened my heart to him. He will know, will advise me. Throne I miss, Thaddeus. But I stand before the Farseer, the heart of fire, waiting for his judgment. I have explained all that has happened to me. The encounter with the three kings, the last parting message. He nods and paces a little, then slowly turns to me and begins. If this is his true name, it could even the odds, but he may have severed all ties with it if he is half as skilled as Saulot believes. We call your Emperor the Child Seer. No, do not get angry. I tell only the truth. He is skilled, but still not our equal in experience, knowledge. The enemy may be as skilled, but less potent, or he may not be either. It could merely be his first name. But if it is indeed his true name, which it may be with the source, but why? Why give you this? They set a tangled web indeed. It could be used to find him, perhaps to summon him, even to bind him. But this is a fool's hope. The choice to use it must be weighed with great solemnity and gravity. It will always be a two-edged sword, 3 edges if it involves the dark ones, as it most assuredly does. You may never be ready, Tarquinus, but what's certain is, you are not ready now. Not yet. I nod along, displaying my attention and agreement with his statements. Can we not scry for him? Locate him at the very least? Look into his future for an event we can use? The Farseer smiles wanly and shakes his head. We could, but then he may use it to find us. Not an enviable circumstance at this present moment. What is the point of all our prophetic ability if we cannot see the real threats, the true thread? Why do you teach me to read and interpret the strands of fate if they avail me naught? If they cannot be used in the most serious of situations, where the stakes are at their highest? Again he smiles, but there is no mirth in it. Would you rather face 1 enemy or 10? The answer is obvious. Prophecy will never allow you to see all, but it will show you much. And by using what you can know, you can then concentrate on that which you do not know. I ask the only question that comes to mind. Why didn't you see my death at the hands of the Catan, the in-gear. He shakes slightly at the mentioning of the word, but not at me. He nods again, as if he expected this question, was waiting for it. A question, it seems, he has asked himself more than once. He turns his back on me before he answers. Looking up, he retorts. I had become temporarily myopic, concentrating on the enemy, his will, his wiles. In your simple tongue, I let my guard down. I thought only of he. A mistake I will not repeat. I retort slowly. Can we see everything? Given enough time, giving it enough diligence. He sniffs and gracefully spins around to match my stare. Yes, it is all there, but that is the trap. One many of our kind, even farseers, fall into. If you spend the time learning all, you will have no time left to act. And we are alive. We are warriors in the battle between the darkness and the light. We must act. If you plan for every eventuality, you become brittle, weak. Flexibility, adaptability. These are the strengths of your race. Play to them. Rush in where angels fear to tread? He scoffs. Moderation, my pupil. Never be stupid. My people say, the difference between courage and stupidity is denoted by success. He looks at me with a long face. And that is why you so often fail. Courage is sometimes knowing when not to act. Restraint. Allow the universe to guide you. But know she is fickle and will often set crossroads in your path. You must become a dancer who knows the steps, can avoid being taken on a merry waltz towards your own destruction. Does the universe wish us ill? No. But the dark gods do. They will tempt you. If an act leads to your aggrandizement, if it plays to your ego, if it brings you benefit at others' expense, you know it is the path set out by the vile ones. I bow, showing my understanding and acceptance of his lesson. Then we use every last trick we have, all three of us. The farseer states, we may end up counteracting one another. I retort, anything is possible, but let us mitigate that by challenging what is probable. Tan Irenade's eyebrows raise dramatically as he intones. You Monkey can be refreshing. Or naive. I can never make up my mind which. I give him a cheeky eyebrow flutter and grin as I offer. Is it decided by victory? His eyes twinkle for a second. You attempt to trap me in your own limited logic. No, you miss the one hidden ingredient. Which is? The farseer looks deadpan now. Bitter experience. Then we shall engage with the former and ignore that latter one. Come, Tan Irenade, heart of fire. Let us forge our own destiny. I used his name, meaning I am done with the lesson. I am back in control now. He semi-bows and follows me. Barbon is stabilized. Barobiel is battered, now also stretcher-ridden, but both are alive. Devlin and the lads have taken them back to our respective shuttles. Anhard informs me that the Corivore offered their skills in treating our wounded. But if I were to leave Barbon in the hands of Xenos, No force in the galaxy would prevent him from giving me a thrashing at the very least. He is a champion of the Emperor, a Black Templar, and an Astartes. His honour would never permit it. Hence, he is being tended on our shuttle. But he is Astartes. He goes into their healing slumber. He will awake when he is mended. Well, enough at any rate. Nothing can keep Barbon down. Sometimes I wonder if, when his duty ends, he will look the Grim Reaper in the eye and just tell it to bugger off. The kin have moved all of their slain to their boarding bricks. One took off filled with hearthkin, skimming off in the distance towards the landing site of the enemy. Anhard informs me of the information. There were no survivors at the landing site. Interesting and troubling in equal measure. I wait in the rain alongside Vermilia. She stands stoically, silently, grieving in her own way. Tarek was one of her oldest allies. He is no Barbon to her, but he was always at her side for the last 2 decades or more. A deep loss to her. Saulot's shuttle arrives, and he processes down the gangplank, shadowed by Sister Lucrezia, of course, while flanked by the 2 Ogrin. He approaches us and nods to us both. I simply point to the huge carcass covered in armour, ones that both I and Vermilia have already checked quite thoroughly. Saulot approaches the leader, whose head was made into mulch by Barbon, and delicately removes his glove. He reaches down, his eyes closed, then opens them again. There are no pupils, his eyes shining somewhat. And he is done. He frowns up at both of us. Vermilia nods down at him and rounds on me. "We all need to talk," she states. "That we most definitely do. We all head up to Saulot's ship. He has the best apothecary by far." Saulot looks to Vermilia and chirrups, "I am sorry for your loss. Let us make sure Barobiel and Barbon heal as thoroughly as possible." And within 2 hours, we have arrived on his ship, the Velox Nauta, the Swift Sailor. We are in the bay with all of us but the Astartes, who are instantly wheeled to the apothecary. Bartholomew with Barbon, of course. Saulot motions to leave, but I put up my hand. I call all to order, and then ask for mugs. We all stand formally. I walk around the circle, pouring a snifter of my amasec into their mugs. We raise them as one, as I begin the ritual. To Inquisitor Pantara and her crew, to Hieronymus, to the Cotto, to Fullen and Foras, to Voluntar and one other. And now, to Tarek, boldest of the bold. I raise my drink higher. All follow suit. We feel you with us still. Your cause is our cause. We absorb your strength, and we add it to our own. Our conviction steels. You did not die in vain. Our final victory will be your victory. We honor you. And as one, we all down the amasec. I can feel the tension relieve somewhat. We have said goodbye. Now, Vermilia and her own entourage can mourn alone. This ritual keeps getting longer. Each time, it is more solemn than the last, as each wing of our extended family loses more of their number. The rest go about their business, as we Inquisitors gather in Saulot's private meeting room. The ship is far smaller than any of the others, but has a homely feel about it in many ways. Saulot has had the Swift for centuries now, and it shows. As we all recline in our chairs, we imbibe another drink or two. What a day. I open proceedings. Okay, we've just taken a pasting, but we have learnt a lot. Let's pool findings now. I'll kick off. The armour on these monsters was not up to scratch. It's made of some substance I have never come across before, but the internals are deeply lacking. As we all know from our own power armour, it should boost strength as much as resilience, but not with this lot. This was more like ancient combat armour, or something the guard would wear. It's tough all right, but doesn't have the servos and other muggins that makes up true power armour. By its forging, it is not shoddy, but it was never designed to contain the same breadth of ability. My bet is it is mass-produced. Cheap, if not cheerful. The weapons are also more simplistic in design. The power field is weak. The metal used to create their weapons is strong, but dull. The field increases their cutting potential, but does nothing for the weight. They weigh a lot. These are not the precision weapons of a space marine. They are bludgeoning and hacking tools, fit only for the servants of the god of skulls. Vermilia is attentive. Saulot takes up the baton. At first, I found it exceptionally difficult to use my abilities. Then I realized it was due to the creator of these things. They are not Astartes, that is inarguable. They are simpler and very unstable. When I looked into their past, I saw their leader put multiple of his own people down, men near as large as himself. When I went backwards as far as I could go, I saw how they are made. At least a hint of it. Flashed images. They are indeed made in fresh factories, conveyors of them, hundreds at the least, but not tens of thousands. For one person in specific is overseeing their creation. The warriors are transformed, as are the Astartes, but they are terrified of the being doing it. They are trained to ignore their past, subsume the memory of it as deep as they can. It is the denizen of Cormorant. The Drukhari scum who performs surgeries oversees their creation. Vermilia sucks in air through her teeth. I whistle long and low. Saulot and I both look to Vermilia. She goes on to explain her findings. Obviously drained from her encounter, she is swift and to the point. The being she fought was a human psyker, all right, but there were complexities involved. He was powerful, experienced, able to hold his own. Then, suddenly, his potent slipped away in an instant. Vermilia struck, of course, destroying him utterly, but controlling the heat so it only killed him, leaving as much of the rest of him as undamaged as she could manage. The poor sod was inherently quite weak in the arts, she says. He was being augmented by some form of bracelet. It allowed him to draw more of the warp and use it. A Sinistrum-grade weapon. But it did not have the endurance to keep him in the fight. So, again, subpar. Mildly melted, so she could not pass it to her tech priest to check its actual workings. Nor would she want to. We all nod at that. Sinistrum weapons, being anything that is involving the Psychers and their ability to tap into the warp, this is strictly forbidden for a damn good reason. Yet, she states that it is a good thing indeed that there was only one of them. If there were multiple of them, their staying power would not be an issue, because everything around them would be dead. I sit back and take another sup of my drink. I continue the round robin. We also have the oddity of the transports. When the kin warriors went to investigate, they found men and women in highly structured uniforms, equivalent of any martial attire of the Imperium in markings and complexity. Yet they had all been torn asunder. By the level of butchery, it could only have been the giants we then faced. So, we are left with a mystery. Did these berserker warriors tear their own men apart in a rage? Or were they ordered to do so by this psyker who clearly ruled over them. Saulot chips in. They are rabid. They only respect strength. This much I saw. It is highly likely they took out their frustrations at losing on their support staff. Or they cleaned up, as we could have captured them and then gotten things out of them one way or another. But I must now ask Saulot, what more you know? It seems we are running into surprise after surprise, and none of them are good ones. What have we missed in all this? You've been hunting him longer and more assiduously than any of the rest of us, and by quite some margin. What else can we expect out here? Vermilia nods infinitesimally at this, stare resting on Saulot intently. He looks down into his drink, then stands. He turns from us and walks to the drinks cabinet. He is thinking, buying time, obviously. Vermilia slides her eyes to me and then back at Saulot, who sighs and turns back, bottle in hand. He sits and pours us more amasec, and then begins. I think it comes down to perspective, Thaddeus. We are all specialists in our field. We hunt the demon and all of their kind. We think in terms of possession, curses, cults, portals, and warp incursions. We've all been trained and informed by our experience. We think about his mystic might, his demonic allies, and that is our weakness. We've all thought about what we know, not what he knows. And I cannot help but notice Saulot's change in demeanour. He seems to stare off into space, not meeting either of our eyes, like he is in a trance. He has thought on this for so long, rehearsed his speech so many times. As if from a dream, Saulot continues. He is the power of old. When men were fighting with stone throwers and swords, he walked with the Emperor. What would the mind of a true immortal be like? Even if he somehow forgot entire centuries. He has seen it all, lived through it all, experienced it all. He has watched humanity as we marched through the ages. He saw the first empires, the first true wars, the first large battles, the first steps into the stars. He witnessed the dark age of technology. He is like our Lord and Master. He knows the old ways, not just of history and the hidden. He knows the high point of humanity. He knows those secrets too. Never as gifted as our Lord, still he is a perpetual. It explains the weapons, the ships, but also he has a Dark Lord of Cormorra with him in his comet, and they know all. Not just of the soul, but the very building blocks of life. Genecraft. So, where he falters, where he has gaps, that blasted Eldar will be more than capable of plugging the holes. He has a vampire, a demon, and, if the Eldar was not lying then, for none of us can truly know, others too. 6 others. Are they of a match and kind to his other immortal servants? Or are they lesser? We need to stop thinking of this as a battle against a demon. Eyes glazed, Saulot trails off, then shakes his head and looks at Vermilia and I. We are not his true target. This much we know. A screen flickers into life, and a contact request comes through. It is Carl Antrad, requesting a word with me. I give my agreement, and it is piped through. He gets straight to the point. Well, despite the losses, your gamble has already paid off. What? Explain, says I. The Corivore have been playing their cards against their chest, it seems. They were worried that you lot looked like the bastards who destroyed their capital city. Charming, but I suspected as much. Your little mercy mission brought high respect from them, so they've loosened up."
"Wait a minute. You charged them for our actions?" I say incredulously.
"Of course I did. It would be an act of stupidity not to do so, in their eyes as much as ours, I'll have you know. They're pacifists, not idiots."
"Okay, well, what did we find out?"
"A bit. We knew that they were hit before. We knew it was humans, but now they've told us why. They hunt underground catacombs down there beneath their capital. It's how they came to this world."
"Came here? I thought they were indigenous."
"Nope. Once they were slaves. They were brought here by a cruel and terrible race, they say. Dark worms in their language. Millennia of time has eroded much of the details, but they have a vague sense of history, it seems."
"Say on."
"Their capital was their first population centre, because it is where the ship crashed. The surviving Dark Masters were few in number, and eventually their cruelty was their comeuppance. The Corivore rose up and slew them all, but they lost 90% of their people doing it. It's why they're now pacifists. They will never return to those dark days, they tell me."
"So, the attack from humans was directed against this site?"
"Yep. They came, blew everything to rubble, slaughtered everyone for miles around. Then they dug. Within days, they were gone."
"They didn't even bother to conquer the world?"
"Nope. This could have been because the locals all banded together to get rid of them."
"Locals?"
"Yep. As stated before, the Corivore have a certain utility and popularity in this region. A whole chunk of neighbour races had a temporary alliance. They turned up in strength, and the human ships ducked out. Fast."
"Very interesting indeed. So there is a sort of alliance against the local humans?"
"Not anymore. A few of them ended up bickering about what to do next. Follow the human ships and hit them back, or leave it as they had gone. Things weren't polite by the end. Tempers frayed. Shots were fired, and the alliance fell apart. Each retreating back to their own space. Bunkering."
But there is potential here."
"Oh, yes, there is. Maybe. Maybe not. In any case, the Corivore have given us leave to visit the ruins of their capital, to see what is down there."
"Ooh, now that is good. Well negotiated, my friend."
"All part of the service."
"Indeed. I've not forgotten our deal."
"Anything worth having is mine."
"Of course, Carl. Of course."
"Then we go down there as soon as possible."
"We do indeed. I'll bring Saulot. Meet you down there." He cuts off. Anhard is a kin. Despite what he said at the time, Karl Anhard will not forget the sullying of his honor. I better keep he and Saulot as far away from each other as possible. Deep joy.
We walk the decks, our footfalls all synchronized. Ilhavnarian is in front, both blades sheathed. Josephus to our rear, beside me the heart of fire, mask and panoply donned, spear hovering at his side. Behind me is Ursula, her carapace armor worn, holding her imperial tarot. Beside her is a navigator, Taurinimachus, his robes of office pristine. I am, of course, wearing my full inquisitorial power armor, temperance at my hip, rebute at my heels. Josephus has his own armor, helm as always, baton, and also a flamer. Steps constantly matching despite our height differences, we march to the observation deck. At its entry, the solitaire opens the doors and tumbles inside, searching for hidden enemies. The Farseer enters,
and the spear moans as it too does a full circuit of the modest room. We all march in but Josephus, who is then joined by the solitaire at the doors. They close them behind us, guarding. It is the only way in or out of here. We four and the Gyrics walk in and witness the light of the nearby star. We take up positions as discussed. I bend down and stroke Rubute, who now lingers right next to me, enhancing me as usual. I nod to Ursula. She nods back. She sits cross-legged but is hovering in the air, cards now unfolded from their case and also arrayed in front of her, the full deck. I nod then to Torinimachus, and he prepares to open his third eye, if need be, but not in any of our directions. He is near the front, as am I. I nod to the Heart of Fire. He half bows to me and begins to push power into thought construct, powering one rune after another that twirls and speeds around us all, forming a barrier between the here and there. He strengthens the very pillars of reality, pulling up a structure that reinforces the veil between our world and the mirror, the immaterium. We will draw from it, will view it, but from behind a shield as old as the First War. I link with Ursula and open my hand. 5 identical pieces of pure white chalk are lifted from it into the air. Each comes down at a different distance and position from us, and she lets me send direct imagery to her, and the chalks all move simultaneously. Elaborate circles are formed at 5 concentric ranges around us. Like skates in ice, they sweep around the floor and ceiling, 2 above, 3 below, forming perfect thin white scars on the surface. Like vines of a tree that finally come together, sliding toward each other at a point a foot in front of me. As they cut their final complex lines, I raise my empty hands in front of me, one held above the other, my hands cupped to grasp it. I raise my hands and it appears, a line of perfect light. My soul staff. I bring it down at the exact moment the chalk completes the circles. The pole's light cascades down the circles, energy erupting upwards to over our heads in height. Then those above throb and charge. 2 more circles reach down to cover the gaps between the 3 below. We're all bathed in pure white light, but none of us squint. I turn and nod to each again, and they reciprocate. I speak. We gather here to be guided. Through us, the universe speaks. God, galaxy, and goodness. We consult the Holy Tarot to see the outcome of our potential movements. We are surrounded by the glyphs of fortune, our powers exalted by the wisdom of the Eldar. We shall look upon the strands of fate and discern the likelihood of success. We shall see the destinations with the help of the third eye. We shall walk the void to see the way forward. We all swore to match ourselves against the forces of evil. We all swore to strike a blow that will resound through the very souls of our enemies. We fight a battle of the end times, the Ranadandra. We strike the first blow. We are not alone. Fate, duty, and divine intervention has brought us to this place. The very universe wishes us to win. So, we trust in it now. I turn to look out the window. Then I separate my consciousness. I go inside. I see the River of Souls. The once and future, present and foreboding. And I am drawn to regions, distances. I whisper my visions into the mind of the navigator, and he confirms the closest lanes. Ursula then draws from the tarot, and is moved to interpret. The Fool, the Tower. Although the Fool is a beginning, the Tower feels too soon. We will walk into a battle with little worth. The Heart of Fire speaks, and here there is a minimal chance of success. I look again. I point, and the navigator watches. We locate and hand to Ursula. She draws cards. The galaxy. It will be barren of events for us. Again, we look. She draws more cards now, pinpointing, interpreting. A conflict, a meeting, an ally. The Farseer shakes his head. Less than a minuscule chance of victory. We look again. Ursula states, confusion, misdirection. We look again. Ursula states, the chariot, the star, a possible conflict, danger, but also great hope. The Farseer nods deeply. A high probability of meaningful success. I place my hand on the shoulder of the navigator. He looks more intently and notes its place in the warp. And off we go. As we hover down, we witness such destruction. It is a dark wonder to witness its after effects. We'd seen the more modern architecture of the Corivore, unlovely and uninteresting, but very functional. Its simplicity had a certain grace to it all. But here, in this, their oldest city, only a few years ago, before the attack, it must have been a sight to see. We cruise down through toppled towers and broken statuary, the evidence of the attack everywhere. Not one of their people has been moved, not one stone has been set back on another. They had left it exactly as it was, a shrine to the brutality of the enemy, a tomb where none of them could walk. What had once been a substantial conurbation had been levelled utterly. Nothing was left above 2 stories, top to bottom. Nobody had survived this. Nothing could. We saw the explosion craters, the scars where flamers had been used to cleanse entire streets. I did not concentrate on the shadows amidst the scorch marks. Each once had a name, each a person, a being who lived, breathed, loved, and laughed. We continue uninterrupted to the center of the devastation. There we find it, a gaping hole in the landscape, one large enough for our shuttle to go into. And so, with care, we did. Anhard's pilot being damn good at his job, we look out at that which was built over, the secret depths beneath the capital city of Corivore. The difference in structure was stark, even more so than between ancient and modern Corivore design. Down here, the lumens of the shuttle panned around, and we witnessed a truly ancient and terrible setting. And it was clear it had not been disturbed for millennia at least, before its most recent invasion. Dark, dank, and complex, a broken statue on every intersection. The structures were looming, intimidating, overbearing, each with strong angles, like a knife rising out of the earth. Each was carved out of the rock itself. No brickwork existed. It must have taken centuries to carve, tens of thousands of backs broken in its achievement. The designs, their placement, their patterns, all of it was so pretentious, self-aggrandizing, egotistical. Any who walked the pathways of this place would be perpetually looking up at the greatness of the owners of the huge edifices. Colonnades, plinths, and temples all had half-destroyed figures around them, atop them. All had been broken a long time ago, but in their heyday, they must also have looked down on, watched, and overborne anyone forced to live down here in this dark hole. The kin used their auspex to scan the place entirely, and then slowly maneuvered to where there had been a recent landing. We sat down exactly where they had, right in front of the most imposing structure down here. Like a jagged tower from some nightmare, it stretched all of the way to the top of the cavern. It seemed to form its base. It must have been 100 feet or more, possibly a lot more. A score of huge wide steps led up to a massive set of doors. The stairs were all of polished rock. They reflected the dark city in their surface. The Carl had not come. Saulot and I were behind the dome-headed right-hand man of Anrod. He led this delving, as he dubbed it. He did not converse with us, but answered questions economically when asked. I found him unpleasant to speak with. Behind that dome, I could not make out any accent or even normal human speech patterns in his responses. Disconcerting. It was like talking with the tech priests of Mars, and I really disliked doing that. Oddies of the highest order in my mind. Another 6 kin in their power armor walked at our sides and back. We were covered, all right. If the kin are exceptional anywhere, it would be here, down in the cold darkness, under the earth. I could not say I was tranquil about this venture. Yes, I felt amply protected, but no Barbon, and even so, this place was dead, utterly, and I felt glad that it was. The central structure's doors had been blown backwards into the building. We scaled the stairs and crossed the threshold into a truly colossal inner area. The closest to this I had ever seen might have been some of the shrines on McCrag, yet those were bright places of honor and worship. This place was an abomination. This was the entryway, the grand hall. We find stairs and descend them, going deeper into the earth, each footfall echoing around us, disrupting, breaking the unnatural quiet of this grave. Saulot was as quiet as I have ever seen him, his eyes strained, his brow furrowed in clear concentration. "You struggle, Saulot?" I said. He did not look at me when he responded. "Yes, this place. It is not just a lack of light that makes it what it is. This is a terrible place, Thaddeus. There are shades here older than any I've ever witnessed, ever experienced. Pain stacked upon suffering, stacked upon hopelessness, stacked upon misery. Whatever was done here was done over a very long time, and it was unspeakable. Try to shut it out, old friend. We may need to rely on observation alone. I do not think I can open myself here." "I understand, Saulot. Let us see what we can unveil without employing your gifts." He nods his head in gratitude. We continue on. There are entire drifts of dust in this place, undisturbed but for the markings of those who preceded us. We follow their route perfectly. I ask the kin if I can see for a second, to which they stop. I walk to the front and note the markings myself. Only the one set of footprints. Whoever came here before, they did so alone. I resume my position behind a wall of kin power armor as we head down again. And here, we come to doors that are also blown off their hinges. There are no blast marks, no fire, no melter effect. Something seems to have just struck them with a level of force enough to mostly shatter them. Shards large and small have skidded across this room, making it impossible to follow the footprints now. But we can all see exactly where they may have gone. I look to Saulot and show him a flare. He nods. I raise it and fire it upwards. The green glow of the lumen erupts outwards and is eaten by the walls around us. These are not polished like the ones upstairs, but we can see the scope of the place now. And there, in the centre of this cavern, is a single stairway going to a platform. But behind it, there is a huge engraved image, a massive carving across an entire wall side that depicts so much. If only it had not been defaced. Yet the destruction comes up to only a certain height, as if the Corivore could only tolerate to be here for a short period, only destroyed that which they could reach easily. They did not take the time or put in the effort to come back and finish the job. For about 15 foot and above, the carving on the wall was still clear. It was torturous to look upon. So alien. Lines and edges that seemed impossible, but not in an overwrought or carved Slaneshi way. It was simply brutal, terrible, depicting things that were difficult to make out, yet when I concentrated on a segment enough, I could see it showed barbarity that would make a demon nod in appreciation. The Corivore. They were not just the slaves of these monsters. They were their playthings and their food. I could still not make out what the Dark Lords seemed to be. At one time they were snakes or worm-like. At other they seemed to have the image of a man. 2 arms, 2 legs, a head. But the image of these things would then flow back into being made of a multiple of worms again. It hurt the mind and eyes to try and pin down one image separated from the whole. So I stopped looking. We made it to this central stairway, hanging in the air around a central column reaching up, like a copy of the building itself, but with a disc at its summit. The kin halted. The strange blank dome of their leader stopped and turned to us. He pointed to us and up the stairs, then directed his men to form a cordon to search around the other end of the column. Before he could argue, I nudged Saulot, and he came up with me, walking step by step as carefully as we could in this power armor. These slatted stairs looked mighty thin, coming out of the tower, yet they did indeed hold our weight. At one point, Saulot slowed and steadied himself, but would not rest his hand on the main column. He seemed to wish to limit any contact with the black stone. He was now sweating quite hard, his face scrunched up in what could only be pain, as if he was being battered by the place. Which, of course, on a spiritual level, he was. I took the lead, and soon enough, we were there. At this height, the sculpted wall now stood out more, became clearer. I did not set off another flare, nor shine my lumens directly onto it, not in the company of Saulot. Its horror might have overwhelmed him. We look out on the summit, on this massive plateau, and there, at its center, are 6 long objects, set in a circular pattern, with a few paces between each. And as we creep towards this area, it is clearly a set of sarcophagi. 5 seem to be broken, fragments of them around the main frame. They'd been smashed. But one was merely covered by rocks. Lots of heavy rocks. They could not destroy this one, it seems. So they buried it. But the sarcophagi are not base and simple things of stone. They are some form of metal, a black alloy. And as we get closer, we investigate. And inside them are the evidence of ancient workings. Then we approach the one that was covered in stones. Its insides are layered in dust, but only enough for a few years maybe. And inside, the track of time has not eroded anything. Sumptuous leather bases it. It is not normal animal leather. It is made of Corivore skin. Inside, there are regions with buttons and dials on them. Inoperable now, perhaps. I look to Saulot and say, "I can only discern so much, Saulot." He glared at me, then ripped off his glove and slammed it into the thing. But he staggers back almost immediately, dropping his glove into the sarcophagus. He falls backwards, and then huddles on the ground in the fetal position. He shuts his eyes so tightly he reminds me of a child trying to ignore a demon stood before him. And he weeps. No sound, just tears. I go to him. I am sorry, Saulot. We will go now. Do not speak. We can talk again when we are in the sunlight, away from here. He silently nods, and I help him to his feet. I turn to reclaim his gauntlet. He stops me. Eyes wide, he spits. No, I will not touch anything from this place. We go now. Take me to the light, Thaddeus. Take me to the light. And so I do. We silently head back to the kin, and then back further to the shuttle and away. Through it all, Saulot simply stares unfocused on anything. The 10-mile stare, as some call it. I hope I have not broken his mind, or his very soul. And only now do I realize how much we have lost when the enemy slew our Ordo Xenos ally. Saulot was right. We think in curses and corruption, demons and devils. We're out of our depth. If we had even the databanks of the Huntsman of the Soul, we might be able to glean something. But even that is lost to us. Farseer, if you were successful in whatever your scheme was, then where are you? Where is he? Where is that blasted ship and all its hidden knowledge? It has been a few hours, and still he is like this, and still the effects continue. I have never seen Saulot like this, so drawn, haggard, weak. Never. I escort him to his quarters with Sister Lucrezia. The door closes behind me as she helps him out of his armor. He is shaking like a leaf. I turn, and Familiar is waiting for me. Since before the negotiations, I have not rested. I look at her with bleary eyes. Familiar opens her hands out in an obvious, "Well then," kind of gesture. He says Saulot will speak to us when he awakes. She states calmly, "What by the throne did you find down there? What did this to him?" I do not know for certain, but it's bad. Something ancient and awful once lived down there. She grimaces. She is far more animated than usual. But then, it has been a long day for her also. Familiar duelled with a psyker. She had to stay to recoup, instead of going down to the planet with us. But she has lost this day. We walk to our adjacent rooms, and I am invited into hers. She floats in and we both sit again. She begins. "We're taking heavy casualties, Thaddeus. You've already lost half your strength. Saulot and I have also lost. Is he beyond recovery?" I shake my head slowly. She knows I am not stating it outright. I should not have to. She leans forward conspiratorially. "He brought the weapon. I bring my armor of automata. What is it exactly you are going to wager? There was always a rumor, many, about the Thaddeus, your trove." I look at her through half-mooned eyes, giving no reaction one way or another. Familiar finally snaps. "When will you commit?" I lean back and cross my arms over my body, fingers overlocking over my midriff. "I've summoned Pius. He is on his way." She leans back, mirroring me, but glaring. "And?" she says. "We've not even found him yet. The more is not always the merrier. It is often the more easily spotted. You've seen the fleets out here on multiple sides now. she hisses back. We may not get another chance at this, Thaddeus. I calmly respond. Perhaps. But what if he's expecting us, as he surely is? The other prongs will try, but without the weapon, what can they really do? She smiles wanly and drolls. If they exist. My eyes dance as I chortle out. Pumping me for information so blatantly is a level of desperation I didn't expect from you of all people, Vermilia. Scared? Aren't you? Of course I am. But mostly for my people. She softens. All of us now mourn, some more than others, for some of us have more cause. I cannot fathom your loss, Thaddeus. He was an excellent candidate. You trained him well. The potential you found was beyond belief. But you have to let him go. We need you, here, now. I narrow my eyes. A strongly empathic assumption, not Vermilia's usual strong suit. Is this deflection? Disconcerted? Saulot, she cuts across me, hoards information like a miser. He needs to open up, or we don't stand a chance. I nod and unfurl my fingers, leaning forward, and she matches me again. Odd for her, but I'll accept it for now. The enemy has tried to slay him before. He has every cause to be cautious. She shoots back. You can say that of any of us. Saulot's use might now be overestimated. He's done his bit. He gained the weapon. But Thaddeus, something isn't right. I respond slowly. I know. I sensed as much from seeing what is out here in the dark. But Vermilia, we haven't enough information to commit to anything yet. And I have more bad news. A delicate matter of loyalties. We talk for an hour or more. At points, it gets heated. But eventually, a plan is agreed upon. Then, I get up. Vermilia will need time to really let this sink in. I know she believes me, but this will be hard for her. What a day. I go and sit with Barbon for a time, watching him. If I'm honest, I put in a few words with the big guy, for Barbon to be hale and hearty once more. But eventually, fatigue gets the better of me. Devlin is outside the door. So, I reach for my flask. I unscrew the cap, my mind blank for the first time in 48 hours or more. And then, it all comes crashing down on me. So fast. Images, sentences, events. The cause and event of everything that has happened. The flask rolls out of my now limp hands. Its contents no doubt wasted on the floor beneath me. What Saulot said. Time. He's immortal. And it now truly sinks in. The sheer breadth of his patience, his plan. He has and always had all the time in the world. He, the enemy. Has he done this with other groups? Or just the traditions of the Ordo Malleus? Is it just us? All those encounters over the centuries. Breadcrumbs of contact and confrontation to pique our interest. Push our buttons with a few high-profile executions. He collected us. Crashing our little shindig. What did it achieve? He goaded us. He's brought us out here to his home ground, his centre of power. What did Petrius call them? Cloaked ships? But whatever you call them, 2 warships left loitering around a pacifistic world. merely to get a message through to their master when we showed up. We are separated from the Imperial war machine, the other Ordos, the fleet, the faithful, even the God Emperor's light. We're exposed alone as we walk into his lair. And final realization dawns on me. We're not hunting him. He's hunting us. To be continued.